There's just no reason to ignore the people saying nice stuff, to engage with the shittiest people on the internet. And most of them are children or mentally ill. Or both. Right. So what are we doing? Who am I arguing with? An 8-year-old in Arkansas who's like got nothing to do all day because he does school from home, and his mom doesn't even teach him? You got to think about who you're yelling at a lot of these times.
It's nobody.
If they have an anime picture, don't engage.
What's going on, my friends? Welcome back to the episode of Travis Makes Friends podcast. Today, I am making friends with the one, the only Drew Dunn. Drew, what's up, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Me. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
thanks
of course,
for coming out to Vegas.
Yeah, I'm glad this lined up. This is
just to do this.
Yeah, this is why I'm here.
Yeah, totally. Not here for any other reason at all.
Nope, couldn't be.
Well, listen, dude, it was so funny how we got connected because I'm a big comedy fan, so I follow a ton of comics and have had a few on the show. Yeah. And I was just, doing the whole time wasting Instagram scroll as you do. Yeah. And came across a clip of yours. It was I think it was the one talking about, that we used to lose babies to the winter. Yeah. And, and anytime, like most of the time when I see a stand-up clip, I'll watch almost any of them that come across the feed. Right. But then when it actually makes me laugh, it's like, all right, well, let's go check out some other stuff. And then found a couple other clips, and then I followed you and saw that you had followed, my business account, which is Guestio, my, guest and podcast booking application, account. I was like, oh, that's coincidence. That's funny. Yeah. And then 2 days later, Dane Cook's in town. Yeah. And it was my birthday. And so we came out to see Dane Cook perform. He hooked it up and gave us some backstage passes and stuff. And I'm walking by to go to see Dane before the show. And I was like, I looked in the room, was like, that's the guy I saw 2 days ago on social. So, dude, I mean, the algorithm gods are working in your favor. Yeah, so
I guess so. That. And then, it turned you into a real life manifestation of me. So that's pretty sweet.
Right in front of my eyes. So.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. It's working with Dane's been a dream. It's been a real trip.
Yeah, how'd that come about?
So I just happened to line up on a show with him in LA. There's a show that happens at Yamashiro restaurant, which is like a Japanese restaurant in the middle of the Hollywood Hills. Okay. And I was just routing from Colorado to San Diego. So I stopped in LA for a couple days to do shows and found out a couple days before I was on it with him, just getting tagged in a poster. Yeah. And then he actually found out I was from the New England area originally. So I was born in Boston, started comedy out of New Hampshire. Okay. And, he found that out because Dane streams on Twitch and stuff like that. My dad had always watched him as a viewer on Twitch and was saw the poster and was like, hey, you're doing a show with my son. We're big fans, blah, blah, blah. And that made him watch my set for a couple of minutes, talked with him after the show. No, and then he, we had a phone call the next day, brought me on to do a couple gigs with him. Those went great. And then I did the whole tour with him last year. And now he's just picking up this year. Dude. So that Vegas show was the first one of the new tour for this year.
Okay. Cool. That's so funny that your dad was watching Dane Cook stream on Twitch. Yeah. What a wild statement that is.
Insane. Absolutely insane. My dad's a tech guy. He's always been a gamer and computer nerd guy. So he works in software. So he's always on the computer all day waiting for code to do whatever code does. I didn't go that direction with my career. And, code does stuff. And he just would always be watching guys like that and being a fan of Dane. It lined up. And and then Dane's been nothing but great to me. The shows are awesome. He's been a great resource for me. It's been awesome, man.
He seems to kind of step in as that parent figure to a lot of young comics.
Yeah, I just think he has a lot of experience in this business with the good and the bad. And we're all going to deal with the good and the bad if things go well. So it's good to have a guy
to do anything long term.
Yes, it's all waves. So to have a guy like that I can use as a resource is just invaluable.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Let's rewind the clock, dude. Because for comedians especially, it's always all right, something's fucked up in your family life, or you ended up in therapy too young, or you just were the class clown. There's so many different or there's only a few different origin stories that I've found for comedians. So let's talk through.
I was definitely always the goofy kid. I was always cracking jokes, doing voices, whispering to my friends in the back of the room. I was never the class clown. I'd have moments where I'd try and be funny for everybody, but it was mostly whispering.
Didn't work as well sometimes.
I was more of a shy kid, so I was just never the one to like put myself out there like that.
Did you ever do that thing where you would say something hilarious and then your friend who had the balls to say it would say it louder?
I'm the guy who whispered the funny thing, and then my dumb friend yells it and gets the laugh.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that feeling. I was like, I was like, we got to make some changes.
I said that.
But also I'm one of 7 kids in my family.
Okay.
So I'm second oldest of 7 kids. So, if you want to break it down psychologically, I'm sure there's some sort of attention seeking mom and dad look at me, give me attention type stuff in there. But I've just always loved making people laugh, man. That's just something that brings me joy and it's fun. It comes easier to me than other things. Cause I was trying to be a baseball player when I first started. I went to college for it. I had some brushes with going pro with it and things like that. But it was always an uphill battle in sports to try and be the starter, to try and do this. And then once I started comedy, it just felt like things were so much easier where I was like, oh, I'm funny. I can come up with funny things. I can, do new stuff on stage and take risks and break the rules and not have to follow anybody's footsteps or anything like that, It
is interesting how like you can pursue a path that isn't completely aligned with like your natural ability. And it's like, you can make it work. Yeah. Like if you really want it, you can put your head down, focus, like
totally
work hard, make it work.
But I think that's where I would be if comedy didn't exist, or if I didn't kind of take that risk when I first wanted to start doing it, I'd probably be a baseball coach or a fucking umpire or something somewhere. I would have stayed in that world because I was comfortable with it.
Sure.
And I think that's a hard thing. It's hard to break out and try something new, especially something as crazy as comedy. But I was in a good point in my life. I was feeling motivated to do it. I just had to stop playing baseball due to an arm injury. So I saw friends that I never thought would try it, do it. So I went and checked out an open mic I was a kid from high school. I know Josh Bates. I think he's still a writer and stuff, but he doesn't do stand up as much anymore. But he was just a kid that was always so funny, but never a guy I would see be doing stand up. But then I heard he was doing open mics. I was like, oh, we can go see like what this is all about. And then if you've ever been to an open mic, you're like, oh, I could do that. If you know a comment. Yeah, because it's everybody's trying it. So you have some people that are really great, and then you have some people that's their first time ever, or they're never going to be funny and they just want to do this to work on their public speaking or whatever it is. So it's like, if you're like, oh, that's the worst that happens. If that dude can like have the balls to try it, like what am I doing? If I actually think I'm funny or my friends tell me I'm funny or whatever, like, so that got me over the hump of doing it the first time. And then,
When did you realize it was like a career option?
And that took a while. I mean, I knew I got addicted to it hard when I first started. You really do get like hooked on it where you just want to do every show possible. You're looking up every show everywhere and just trying to hit people up. Be like, dude, let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do it.
Do you think that's the case for everybody?
I think people that find success with it get addicted to it for sure. I think if you don't get hooked on it and it's kind of this passive thing in your mind, then that's kind of how it will react to you. Where if you give it everything, it can give everything back in a way. I think that's true with kind of anything that you do. Yeah. If you half-ass something, you're going to get half-ass back.
Right. Right.
But yeah, no, it was, as far as like a career, the first time I made money was like a competition. I made like $25, and then I started working like the door for a comedy club where I'd have to show up early, set up the chairs, deal with people's fucking Groupons, and then get paid $25 to open the show and then introduce everybody. And then so you're making like $100 a month when you start, and then it turned into like I won a festival. Now I'm doing some feature work, and it got to the point where in like 2017, I started in 2014, I was making exactly enough to like pay my bills.
So
to do stand up. So and then I started doing it full time.
My wife lived in New England.
I was living in New England. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a super cheap place to live either.
No, but I had family that was giving me a good place to live for not a lot of money, which was nice. That was a huge support for me early on, just to be able to like give this thing my all and not have to have that concern and know I could make enough to pay the rent and pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. And I'm married, so I had my wife that was there to help me if I had a bad month, she could pick up things and vice versa. And I was even driving like Lyft and stuff like that just to supplement where I needed to. And then that year I won the Boston Comedy Festival. Next year I won the Seattle Comedy Festival. Then I did New Faces at Just for Laughs, and then pandemic. And then it's just been trying to keep things moving as things reopened and grow online. And
were you doing anything to make money before that, or was this like right out of college when you realized baseball wasn't going to be an option?
So I was working. My first job out of college was working for the same college I graduated from. In admissions, which is not a great.
My
job was to tell people that school was worth it. But no, let me tell you, a degree from here opens a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
Like this one behind me. It's a revolving door. Run, leave.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was, I was working as like a waiter, a bartender. I was running like banquet events before that. And then I graduated college, started doing that. And then that was the last day job I had, other than like, like I said, driving Lyft and like little gigs like that that I would do to supplement. But
what would you go to school for?
I went to school for marketing. Okay. Really, I went for baseball.
Okay.
But I was going to do business marketing.
They're like, you actually have to learn while you're here. So you just chose marketing.
Well, it's funny because I was like in marketing classes, like just knowing I was never going to use this stuff. And I was just be watching that going like, yeah, whoever's doing this, that's going to suck. What a terrible concept. And I'm learning about how like, they're like, you know how like a Hot Pocket sometimes feels like it has less filling than the last time you had it. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, that's because they do that on purpose because they want to see how much they can take away before you notice. And then they go, hey, now with more cheese. And I was like, you guys are all monsters.
Yeah, basically they just want to ruin every company you like.
I was like, I can't do this. Like the only thing I learned in marketing class was the tricks they used to get me in there in the first place. I was like, that's how you did it? You sneaky motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly. That's all psychological.
Yeah, exactly. You're manipulating minors. It's fun.
Minors. But if it's for Lucky Charms though, you know what I mean?
Totally. Then, whatever sells a Pop-Tart at the end of the day.
So that was clearly not the path.
No, I was never going to be my path. I never saw myself as somebody who could sit in an office working for somebody else and find satisfaction. I kind of envy people that have that in them to a point, but I was going to be somebody who worked for myself or ran a business or died trying, regardless of what that business was, I think.
Yeah, I totally get you on the envy thing, man. Cause like I think about that at least a few times a year.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, man, I wish I could just be cool with like working a job and like sitting somewhere. It's like, yeah, you got to take some shit. Yeah, you don't have control over your schedule. Yeah, there's some things you got to give up. But also it'd be kind of cool to like just have steady stability, income all the time.
Insurance. Like, you can good go medical, on vacation. You know your days off, time off. You know you can schedule your life.
When you go home, you can actually like not think about work when you're home.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, fuck that.
Which is why we're both sitting here.
I can't do it. I'll be staring out the window wondering what day I'm going to jump out of it.
Exactly.
It's one of those things like I could do it for a week and then after that I'd be like, oh, I'm just waiting to die now. I just do this and hope I get a promotion in 5 years. And if I don't, I have to do this forever.
And if you do, it's like 5.2%.
Yeah, it's not even salary. Anything. Yeah, and that's what I mean. So it's like, it's a risk reward thing. For me, I'm willing to kind of risk everything for the hopes of rewards that I get to earn myself and not have to get through, 35 filters before the rewards get
ultimately to me. It's the value that you place on like your freedom and your autonomy and your ability to create a life that you actually want to live rather than just being like pulled into one that was built for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And expected to live.
Well, even in stand-up, there's a lot of traps that with that as well, where like I didn't get into comedy to have a day job, but if I go be a writer on a TV show, that's what that is. I'm showing up 9 to 5. My ideas belong to this company, and then anything else is extra I get, I just never had any interest in that world because I'm like,
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. If I wanted to have that stability, I could already be doing that at some fucking finance gig or some marketing firm or whatever the fuck. I don't.
And get paid a lot more, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And already be established and have 10 years in the business, not this like, hey, I guess I'll give you all my good ideas. Like, I think the long road of being known as a stand-up comic publicly, like letting people know that that's who you are, it takes a long time for people to give a fuck about you.
Sure.
But I think by doing that and not just going like, I need to make money or I need this, I need that right now, I think the long-term benefits of that are greater if it works.
When you look back on like your first, let's say, 1 to 3 years doing stand-up, do you look at that material and go like, that was really good? Or do you look at that material and go like, that sucked, I can't believe I did that in front of people?
It's a lot of it is like, those jokes just evolved and I just turned them into you look back at what they were then and they're like this nugget of what the joke then turned into with more ideas and perspective but it's funny you say that because I was just going through my my OneDrive and I popped up on my memories was a set from me when I was like maybe 2.5 years in at this place called Dick Doherty's in Boston. That's no longer there. But it was, I was like, I don't even know what I did for this set. And I just watched the whole thing and there's jokes I totally forgot about that. I'm like, oh, that was actually like a good set that I was like, okay, I see like I could see why it was getting the reactions, but I also see now like what I would do differently and change and take out. And like those lines, especially when you first start, like the biggest lesson you learn in joke writing when you first start doing comedy is editing, is the ability to like write a joke, recite it, and then take away that line that you love or say a million times just because it doesn't work or it's not the right. It's better to go from here to here. So you have to learn how to like let go of these things that you wrote or that you like or your way of saying a thing in order to like optimize it and tighten it up. You know? But a lot of people, especially when they first start, just get stuck in saying that joke over and over and over again and never like taking anything away from it or adding to it. You're just trying to like get through the motions, which is good to do when you first start, just to get used to being on stage and talking in front of people. But that has to be a point where you become very critical of yourself. And I think coming from a sports background allowed me to do that because especially in baseball, it's mostly failure. You're mostly swinging and missing. You're mostly not getting on base. So
like the best baseball players in the world is like 3 out of 10 times.
You can strike out and look like an idiot still as the best player in the world. So if you don't have the ability to go, why did that happen? Or what can I do better next time? You're just never going to get better in the world of sports, especially baseball. So if I can take that and apply it to comedy, it allowed me, I think, to be a little bit more critical of myself when I first started.
When you see people who are going up and, you know, they're in their first 6 months to a year, like, do you, I guess the underlying question is, do you think that just anybody can do comedy? And based on that answer, are there people that you look at that are trying and you're like, I just don't think that I don't think you're going to get there.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think anybody, if they even have the thought of wanting to try comedy once, do it. Because it's the only career that you can try for free. You just show up and see if you like it, see how it makes you feel.
Yeah, they're not like asking you for your bachelor's degree.
Yeah, you don't got to apply. You can literally just walk in, put your name on a piece of paper and try it. You're not going to get paid for it, but you can at least try the job.
Right.
And then, it just turns into like trying to do it more and more and meeting people and stuff like that. And there's definitely, I think it's like anything. There's people have tendencies in themselves. I think like if you're a gymnast, and you're an Olympic level gymnast, you're probably 10% more aligned genetically, mentally, whatever, to being that great gymnast. Where somebody who maybe has, weaker genetics or a worse training program or whatever it is going to be less likely to kind of reach that. Yeah. I think there's a lot of that. I think there's people that are naturally funny. I think there's some of the funniest people I know are not stand-up comedians. They're just fucking uncles and dumb friends that I have that just know how to make me laugh. But I think anybody can learn how to do it, but I also think it's one of the hardest things to learn how to do is to be funny. And if people are ahead of you, it's really hard to catch up with that. But with that said, there's an audience for everybody out there. Yeah. I mean, no matter what you make, everybody in this room could think you fucking stink and you could be one of the most successful comedians on the planet. It's like music. It's like your taste and your preference. So even if I don't like you and nobody likes you and all the comics in the world think you're not funny, that doesn't mean you're not making something that somebody's going to love or that a lot of people are going to love. So I think everybody should try it. If you're even thinking about it, why not?
How have you found the comedy world in terms of like competitiveness versus collaborative versus like, you know what I mean? I guess, does that question make sense?
Yeah. I think it starts off very competitive, especially when you're first starting, because you want to stand out and you're doing all showcase shows. You're surrounded by your peers of people that are starting or just started within a couple of years of you. Yeah. And there is real value in standing out early. You're the person who gets asked to host at the club instead of the person next to you. And especially in comedy at the start, all these festivals I talked about, those are all competitions. So you are put in competition against people. It is a very much so like who's better than who. And again, that's all subjective. Who are the judges that night? And there's some places that do it more fair. Like that Seattle competition I did, for example, they do it over a whole month. So one round of shows is 5 shows with different judges every night. And they drop your lowest score of the week. So if there's one set of judges that hated you, then that's all gets null and void. So you have more samples of who's doing better consistently and that kind of thing. Where when it's this, all on one show, it's kind of anybody's game as far as who can have that moment. But you're definitely like pit against your peers when you first start. And then as everybody establishes themselves and you're like, all right, these are all working comics. We don't have to be beating each other out. There is a subset of like, who's doing this, who's got numbers, who's getting views, who's popping off. Everyone's always talking about those things, but it's a much more collaborative space as you move up the ladder in comedy because there's just benefit to it. I mean, if I if I get big and I want to have you on my podcast because now I see you as a benefit, or if this person blows up, why wouldn't I want to do a sketch with them or this show or whatever? There's room for everybody now more than ever, because there's more people seeing comedy now than in the history of time. And there's more opportunities, there's more shows, there's more of this sense of community of people that watch comedy overall, that they're all kind of aware of people. So, I think it starts very competitive, and then it works towards this kind of collaborative world that we're in, where everyone wants to kind of help other funny people. Yeah,
it was one of those unique industries where it's like, just because you watch this person be funny doesn't mean that you can't watch another person be funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not, it's not Burger King versus McDonald's where, where it's like, oh, I want a burger, I can only have one burger.
Yeah. It would be like if you only listen to one band on your playlist, you're a psychopath.
Right.
Like it's, you got to have some variety in there.
Right.
And now there's more people doing it than ever. There's more new voices to hear, as many as there are legends that you can go back and listen to their old stuff or new stuff. And all that. Yeah.
Who are some of the people that you listened to a bunch that kind of helped form you at the very beginning? When you were first like, I got to get better at this.
Well, the first time I heard stand-up comedy was when I think I was like 11 or 12, and I was born in Boston, but we lived in Seattle for a chunk of my childhood, just outside Seattle. And we moved back to the East Coast. We drove. It was 5 kids at the time, 5 boys, a cat, and my parents in a fucking full stocked up van. Insane. Yeah. And then my brother fucking threw up the first night of the trip in the car, just ruined the rest of perfect throw up smell from the car for the next 6.5 days. Don't go to a buffet the first night of a week-long road trip if I'm going to give anybody advice. Save it for day 6.
Yeah, right. That's the celebratory dinner.
Yeah, if you're going to get the shits on the highway,
things started dinner.
Do it close to home. But my dad had bought all these Comedy Central Presents and all these comedy albums for us to listen to, because this is pre-podcast. This was like 2003 or 4 or something like that.
You got them on.
It was all CDs. It was just all fucking books of CDs. Yeah. So we just went and listened to everybody that had an album out at that time. And my favorite at that time was Brian Regan, and he's a guy that I still watch. Love Brian Regan. Amazing, clean comic, which you don't even realize at the time until someone tells you it. It's just he's so funny. He doesn't need to.
We were extremely fundamentalist Christian growing up, so like it was very rare when a comedian made it through the door to be to be able to listen to them.
Right.
And he was one of them.
Yeah.
And he was the person that probably was like the first one where I was like, oh, that's just a funny thing. Well, there's just a guy that's standing on stage and he says funny things. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah. And for me, I'm like, oh, he's just coming up with this as he's going. Like, you don't even really know how comedy works. Right, like, this guy's a genius. He's just saying, he's just talking. You don't realize it's an act that's been worked out, 1,000 times on the road. And
was it that first album that he did?
The Brian Regan Live
School.
With you too.
The Moosin.
The Moosin and the snow cones at the baseball. Purple, grape, or cherry.
They're both favorites. Yeah.
You too. Yeah. Easy out.
It's such a great.
It's one of the best comedy albums of all time.
I did actually my senior year of high school. We had this thing called Fine Arts, and it was like a bunch of schools would come in, and there was a big arts competition, or whatever, and there was a bunch of different categories, and one of them was humorous interpretation, and I did a Brian Regan bit.
Oh, amazing.
I don't think it was from that one. I think it was from the I Walked on the Moon special, where he talks about the doctor's office.
Oh, the emergency room. Yeah. Not having a valet at the emergency room. The biggest oversight in our solar system. So funny, man. He's a real wordsmith. He knows how to just say the exact right word.
And the emphasis that he does.
Amazing. He's so good.
But I won first place on that. So
that's awesome. Wow, congratulations.
Well, I mean, it was Brian Regan, so I can take literally zero credit.
100%. Yeah, you could have taken any of his bits and it probably would have worked.
Right.
He was one that I watched any special he came out with after that. I was Jim Gaffigan was another guy.
Yeah.
And then Dane Cook was I mean, that guy was the most quoted comic in my high school. It was he was so big, and I think he was so many people's gateway into comedy. He reached such an audience of people that never heard of or just never cared for stand-up comedy.
He pulled like moviegoers into comedy.
Yeah, and just like hot chicks that only cared about fucking punk bands or whatever. And now they see him on MySpace and he's this cool guy. And I think in a way he's responsible for this many people caring about comedy. Because I'm sure you could say anybody would have done it at some point, but he was at that pivotal moment of getting into social media and reaching all these people. And all these people now have kids and comedy is just a part of their lives. And now
the arena tours that he would like there's just nobody was doing that.
He was the first guy since Dice, the first guy in like 20 years to do an arena tour. It's just wild. And now you have like 10 guys doing it. And podcasts doing it and stuff. It's the comedy is so big now that like it's amazing to kind of see how it's evolved and how it's just stayed relevant. There's so many, you think about like jazz was like the biggest thing in music and then it kind of gets folded over into a different thing. And you could say that with different genres of comedy, but the fact that comedy has stayed so prominent in our culture, I think says a lot about just what we like to consume as people and just kind of how people are feeling. People are always looking for something to escape the world or something to laugh at, a new perspective, a way to just kind of see the light for a moment. Yeah,
right. Exactly. Bring a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then I think comedy's that place. Like the thing that I love about it so much is just that it breaks down all the barriers of like, I disagree with you, you disagree with me, and everybody's polarized and hating each other all the time.
Absolutely.
But you put a bunch of people in a room and tell stupid jokes, and then you're just laughing next to random people that you don't know, but you're both laughing. Like you're finding commonality with joy.
Yeah.
Like, what a cool
without
thing.
it, you would be maybe yelling at each other in the parking lot, but now you're able to share this moment and laugh at or with this comedian. And I mean, if there's a time in our country that we need that now, and I think that's why comedy is so big, is because people are seeking that escape, that that extra perspective, or sometimes it's just to feel like they're validated and that they're right, and like they'll find a comic that agrees with everything that they say on either side, and that's fine too. But it's like as long as you're listening to something, if as long as you're not just yelling in these echo chambers or even the echo chamber of your own mind, and you're allowing some other look at the world. Yeah, right, exactly. And comedy has a great like that. That's why I like before when people would describe it as art, I was just like, okay, like that's kind of a weird way to describe comedy. Yeah. But then the more you like, really it was just the more I became an adult and the more I figured out how the world worked a little bit more, was you start realizing like whenever I would get offended at something that was said on stage from a comic or something like that, and I would catch myself being like, hey, screw you, buddy. You know what I mean? Right. I was just like, it gave me an opportunity to observe why I was feeling this offended about something that is literally a joke. That's told by a guy whose job it is not a news anchor, not the president, not anybody who can your boss. It's like, it's
your entire reason for existing on this stage is to tell jokes. And I'm getting offended because like, why is that happening? What belief do I have about this thing that you're talking about that's preventing me from enjoying myself in a place that is supposed to be for enjoying yourself?
Well, and you're doing it in a live stage where you can look around and see other people having the complete opposite reaction that you're having, where now so much of comedy is consumed online that people are stuck in that I'm offended world because they don't have the person next to them that's dying laughing. They can't even see or hear that perspective. They go, this is awful. This sucks. Let's fucking report this guy a million times or comment bomb or whatever, try and cancel him. And I mean, I think we're over the hump of a lot of that stuff now.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think that people have just concluded, and this has been my thing from the start. It's like, if you don't like what somebody's watching, change the channel. Right. I didn't sit there and watch the fucking Home and Garden Network and be like, this show fucking sucks. I hate this fucking.
Let me email
they should be playing fucking something like on Spike. Like, where are the sports?
Dear Home and Garden show producers.
Totally. It's insanity to be like, watch a channel and be upset about it. Especially now, there's more channels than ever. Change the channel. But
just unfollow that person.
Yeah.
And also, if you're gonna do it, don't go announce it in their comments.
Totally.
Those people are my favorite.
Unfollow.
Like, I'm gonna unfollow now. It's like, okay,
good for you. So, don't let the door hit you.
You could have done that without commenting that, right? Like, it would have saved us both some time.
Yeah. Next time, do the Irish goodbye. I don't need to just. Exactly. I'll hear the door.
Like, I did not need that notification.
Yeah, no,
I appreciate it though. I guess. Thank you.
No, I turn off all notifications for all that stuff now. I just can't deal with like, because you'll have like 4 great comments like, this is me, you're funny, and then one guy's like, this guy fucking stinks, or this is that. It's just like,
and you find yourself clicking to their profile.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I just ignored the 3 nice people that are fans of me to go talk shit about this guy with no job. Like, what are we doing? It's just not good for your brain.
You don't read any of the comments anymore?
I'll read them. I just don't have them pop up to my phone. I still have to go in and like, generate the algorithm. And I'm trying to interact with fans. I'm trying to meet the people that are liking my stuff as much as I can.
I always like the people that are
I set time limits. I'll go in there for a period of time, and then after that, like now, if a video's still going, a week later, and the people are arguing in the comments, I'm like, great, you guys go fucking stand up for each other. I don't need to come and chime in and be like, actually, I think at Catmom49 is what are we doing?
I try not to get drawn into like a second comment.
I
mean, it's like I'll comment back and try to just like squash whatever it is, but
that, or I try and just focus on the positive. I won't even give those if they want to say something negative, because most of the time, especially in the world of comedy, they're just trying to say something funny.
Right.
And then you go, hey, you're an asshole, and they go, oh man, I'm sorry, I was just trying to make a joke, like because like they see like you make fun of yourself in a joke, they're like, oh, we can make fun of you're fat, you know. It's just like it's like, no, I'm saying it.
That was not an open invitation.
No, you can't. You're not my friend. My friends can call me fat, not you.
That is a strange line to draw. Yeah. Because I see that all the time in people's comments, where like comedians' comments, where people just like feel like they have open season on roasting them and saying whatever they want because they're a comedian. And it's
and that's fine, but I just don't engage with it. I engage with the person that was like, I love this. This is awesome. Big fan. All that stuff is great, but there's just no reason to ignore the people saying nice stuff to engage with the shittiest people on the internet. And most of them are children or mentally ill. Or both. Right. So what are we doing? Who am I arguing with? An 8-year-old in Arkansas who's like got nothing to do all day because he does school from home, and his mom doesn't even teach him. You have to think about who you're yelling at a lot of these times.
It's nobody.
If they have an anime picture, don't engage.
It's like a picture of their favorite actor as their profile picture.
Exactly. Totally.
There was several times now where stuff like that's happened, and you see negative comment, and I found myself like getting sucked into them, and it's just like I can't keep doing this.
Well, it just changes your mood for the day.
Exactly.
You'll be getting food later, and you'll be happy, and then you'll think about that shitty thing, and you're like, why the fuck am I? Why do I care? Like, I'm hanging out with my family. I'm having a good time, and I'm sitting here with a weird thought in my head for no reason.
Also, if this is I understand it more from people who aren't choosing this as a career path. Like they have like an accidentally viral moment, and like they just get blown up, and they have no idea how to deal with it, and they didn't desire that. They don't want any of that. But it's like, if you're in a position like we are both in, where it's actively a role in your job to get more people to look at your stuff.
Right.
It's part of it. So like, if you can't figure out a way through it without it screwing up your entire day or making you mentally exhausted, it's going to be a long career.
Totally. I mean? It's a part of every job now. If you want to run a fucking hot dog stand on the side of the road, you got to have
the personal brand
and have a social media presence. And it's, I mean, I just surrendered that this is part of the job now.
And it's part of the thing too, where I see some people who are just like, oh, you can't look at the comments. Don't ever look at the comments. And it's like, okay, well, that might work for you if you're already like at a certain level.
You're huge, sure.
But like up to that point, I gotta be engaging with anybody who comes on my stuff so that like I can build a loyal fan base.
I want them to know that they're heard, and that I actually do appreciate them taking the time to watch the thing and go, I know how easy it is to swipe through bullshit. We all do.
If you actually comment, like, if you just never comment back, how incentivizing is it for that person to ever drop another comment?
Yeah, they'll never do it again. And then if not, you can make a fan for life just by replying to a DM or saying nice or recognizing somebody's existence. It's like, it's not that fucking hard, especially when they're being nice to you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But to see through the bullshit is the job. That's the work. The work is dealing with that. And if you can't do that, then it's, you kind of shit out of luck.
What's been the most surprising thing about doing comedy? Something that you just weren't expecting.
I mean, I guess the biggest surprise, and I think every comic faces it at some point, is that it is the longest possible road that you can have in a career. It's a never-ending road. It is a marathon, not a sprint. There are people around you sprinting, and that doesn't mean that you should match their pace. Because if you're running a marathon, then you got to go fucking 26.5 miles or whatever the fuck. Yeah. And you're going to make it there. But if you sprint now, then who knows? You might be fucking shit out of luck by the time mile 10 comes around. You might break your leg on
mile 12.
So if you look over your shoulder at everybody running and not just focusing on yourself, and just surrender. It's long. It's going to take forever. It doesn't matter how much success you have early or middle or late. it's gonna take a long fucking time. And even if you think it's gonna take long, it's longer than that. It's every opportunity I've gotten it 2 years after I thought I should have had it in my mind.
Interesting.
So I think the more that you treat it like a marathon and make long-term decisions and not short-term decisions, again, like not taking that writing job because you know you want to be a touring comic, not a writer. So if you take that writing job, now you're off the road, you're giving your best. So it's, I want to be on the road selling tickets, but I need to make money. Well, should I do cruise ships? It's like, well, then I'm away from the scene. I'm making money, but now I'm not building this career. It's all these kind of like, short-term mindset thoughts where if you can plan for the longest term possible of long-term success and, and happiness down the road and make decisions based on that, even if it means saying no to things that seem exciting. That's been the biggest learning curve for me. And the most surprising thing is like, A, how big it is, and B, just how many choices you have to make and just planning for that long term.
Just to stay focused on what you want ultimately.
Yeah, totally. And I think for me, like when I first quit my day job, I had the benefit of trying a lot of different things and figuring out what outside of stand-up I enjoyed and didn't enjoy, where I started a solo podcast. I did some gaming Twitch stuff. I did a sketch. I taught myself how to animate and do like voiceover and stuff like that. And through that, I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. And then I also realized I was just stretching myself so thin that I wasn't focusing on stand-up. I was like, I haven't written a new joke in a week because I'm sitting here editing an animation or trying to do a podcast or whatever. That like, I was like, if I just focus on stand-up, and this is advice I got indirectly from Kevin Hart, actually. I was an extra on Central Intelligence. It was like that first movie he did with The Rock. And that opening scene where it's like a pep rally. I'm like one of the kids in the crowd or whatever. It was when I was trying to do everything. So I was doing acting classes and trying to do all the extra work and stuff and just see how it all worked. I thought I was going to meet Kevin that thing because they keep all the stars so separate, and they like called our group up and they're like, oh, we don't need you. We went down, and it's like that hall outside of a gym. And I just see him walk to the middle of the thing. And I was like, I'm going to turn away and just go like, say hi. Hey, thanks. Big fan, whatever. Love your work. I'm walking towards him. I'm getting all nervous. I get like maybe 2 steps away and he like turns his head slightly, and it was his fucking stunt double. It wasn't even him. I was getting nervous for no reason. The guy just went in and did a backflip. It was like, I was like, God damn it. But either way, on that set, some guy like ran out and just went up to Kevin, like in the middle of the thing. People were freaking out. And he's like, Kevin, like I'm trying to make it in this. Like, what's one piece of advice you can give me? And then Kevin was like, first of all,
don't do that shit.
Get away from me. Don't touch me.
For real though. Like whatever you're doing right now, don't ever do that again.
Totally.
That's number one.
First of all. But the advice he gave was like, essentially it was like, go get great at one thing. Pick one thing, go be great at it, and all those other opportunities are going to come along the way. And that resonated with me because at the time I was doing everything. Like I said, I was trying to do so many different things.
We kind of have to at the beginning to see what you want to get great at.
Totally. But I think without that advice, I would have kept doing some things longer than I should have, and I would have been kind of not using my time in an optimal way. And it's true. I mean, if you look at his career, he became a great, well-known stand-up comedian, and he wasn't trying to do this or that. Sure, he was doing some acting stuff here and there along the way, but it was all around stand-up comedy. And if you get known as a great stand-up comedy, they'll let you do voiceover and acting and sketch and all the other stuff and podcasts, all the other stuff I have interest in doing. But if I spread myself too thin or get exposed in a way that isn't me being a comic to the public, then you're in a trap. I mean, you see that so much with TikTok where people go viral for this one character. And that character gets tired in 3 months, and then their views plummet, and they're just trying to keep the wheels on the bike or trying to reinvent themselves. And I just never wanted to have to do that. I just wanted to be known as a comic. So that's been my focus really since then, is like put out stand-up content, grow, get better, write new jokes, get in more clubs, meet new people, and just try and be the best comic I can be. And then more opportunities have come along since then.
Do you stick to a certain writing schedule?
Not necessarily a schedule, but I always try and have something new to say on stage every time. Even if it's just a tweak or a new order or something. So a lot of it, I go into my notebook every day just to...
You're talking like physical notebook?
I have a physical notebook, and I have it on a OneNote on my phone. So usually like my process is I'll see something or think of something, I'll write down whatever that initial thought is. And then like a couple hours before a show, I'll go back and like listen to an old set that has like a joke I'm trying to work on or whatever. And then through that, go take that idea out and try and hash it out, give it some bullet points that I think could work out, and then decide whether or not it's like ready for that stage. There's some clubs that I can feel much more comfortable doing a brand new joke and having the risk of it not doing well. Yeah. Where if I'm at the Comedy Cellar, it's a lot more of a risk. Everyone's going to be killing and doing their best stuff. I have, you have a reputation that you're trying to gain and uphold in clubs like that. Gotcha. So you have to kind of manage your risk in a certain way when you're on stage and how you present yourself. So a lot of it is just trying stuff out, finding a place to riff. A lot of it's just with my buddies. So I have a good group of friends that are always on like a Discord channel that are not comedians. Okay. And I can just go up there and just talk about life, whatever, this perspective, that perspective, and just hash it out almost like it's an open mic. Okay. Indirectly, they don't know I'm doing it, but I'm just talking about a thing and we're having a conversation. And it lets me realize if something's valid or if it's just in my dumb comic brain that I have this perspective, or if like regular working people also can connect to that thing too. Yeah.
Do you feel like you lose touch with that a little bit, like being a comic full time? Because like I feel like you get some like comedians that when they are first starting have a lot of great normal people stuff to talk about. Yeah. And you start like touring, you start doing this thing, and then everything you do is all bit, and then like all of a sudden the bits are about airline food and traveling and all these other things because that's what your life is. But then the majority of the crowd that you get in front of like can't relate to any of the stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think that it's something you have to be very conscious of when you're writing is making sure that you're not falling into those kind of hack tropes of just writing what everybody else is writing about and what's in your face and Ubers and airlines and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Have jokes about it, but if that's your whole act, it's tough to recover from that. Yeah, I think
to stand out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think comedy's one of those things that it keeps you in the real world. I'm not successful enough to have lost perspective yet. I'm still taking the subway. I'm still seeing people every day. I'm still eating at regular restaurants. Like I'm still very much so a part of the regular world. I just do my grocery shopping Tuesday morning instead of, Thursday Friday afternoon. So I think that helps, but I do think that that's where you see a lot of comics. Very few comics' fifth hour is better than their first or second hour. Most people put and part of that is you spend 10 years to write your first hour and 2 years to write your second one because you're kind of waiting for everyone to look your way, and then you kind of have to just keep blowing your load on your audience until they don't give a shit. So I think like part of that is you've written your best jokes, your best perspectives in life have been packaged in this great way in these first few hours. But then a lot of it is you're no longer operating as the same human being you were in those first 2 hours. Now you have a bunch of money or a different house and you don't, your food gets delivered. Someone cooks your stuff for you if you're that type of person. So yeah, I think it is a lot harder to do it. But also, I mean, you look at a guy like Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld hasn't been a real person since he was fucking 24. Right, so if he can still come up with ways to relate to regular people, then it's definitely anybody can do it. You just have to make sure you put the effort in, I think.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you look at like that you're like, man, how are they still doing this after this long?
I mean, I look at a guy like Bill Burr for sure is a guy that I think of. I mean, he's been living lavishly in LA for at least the last decade or so, I would guess. But also, again, the good thing about comedy is with very few exceptions, every story of somebody is a underdog, zero to hero, started with nothing story. Even if they had a bunch of money, whatever, they all had to go to that first open mic and still eat a
sucked.
Dick. Yeah, right. Totally. Right, you had to earn everything that you got through doing it. So you kind of, even if you are a Nepo baby, you still had to go back to fucking square one and learn.
It doesn't make you funny.
Doesn't make you funny and it doesn't make you respected. It doesn't make you fun to be around, all the things that are important to be a good comic. Right. So yeah, I think because of that, comics compared to other celebrities or musicians or people like that are able to kind of stay a little more grounded or at least arrive at a place that's more grounded with effort because you're forced to be in that box for that much longer. And you just have a little bit more appreciation for the wealth that you've acquired because it takes so fucking long to get there.
Right. Yeah. If you could like snap your fingers and trade everything, like all of your skill in being funny and put it toward like being a musician and playing sold out arena, like, pinnacle of musician, like Ed Sheeran, 100,000 people singing your songs, or pinnacle of stand-up comedy, Dave Chappelle selling out an arena, being funny. Which one would you choose?
Oh, it's comedy every day of the week. Yeah. I wouldn't trade what I have, even with where I'm at now, with just trying to grind and get up and grow numbers and stuff. Like, there's almost nothing I would trade this for. I wouldn't even trade this for jumps up on the ladder, because I think it's all part of the journey. It's all part of growing. You can't just jump into a new world and perspective and expect to be the same person.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think we've seen a couple people do that, especially in comedy, and it never works out.
Yeah,
like they get too much spotlight too early on for like maybe other reasons, like something else that they were good at, or somebody famous tweets something, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of eyeballs on their stuff, and then like they dwindle out after 6 months because they've only been doing it for a year and a half. And they're just not that good yet.
Yeah, I look at that with like America's Got Talent, for example, where I think they're better about it now as far as booking like real working comics to do the show.
Yeah.
But there was a period where they were putting on like 13-year-old stand-up comics. I'm like, you're doing the biggest detriment to this person's career that you could ever do, because they're never going to reach this pinnacle that you've put them at 13 years old, when they're a year into doing comedy, not even really doing comedy. They can't even go to a fucking bar or a club and do spots. Now you're putting them at this place. There's no way they're going to find success after that. There's no way they're going to be mentally healthy enough to be chasing that dragon for the rest of their career to be happy. So, and you see that a lot with TikTok now and things like that, where people just kind of pop off out of nowhere. And a lot of it is these agents just swoop in and they see money to be made. They squeeze the lemon, they take advantage of you, and then they toss you on the floor and move on to the next viral sensation. So, but I think like I said, it takes time. So some people are going to skyrocket to a certain point, but the analogy I always have in my mind is like, I'm building a skyscraper, and you can get up a lot higher than me if you're building it with popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue and rubber band. Go ahead, fly up there. But I'm going to just be laying bricks for a while. I'm just going to keep laying bricks, and it should be sound enough that if I have wind and storms and all the bullshit that you find up there, you can take one brick out. The whole thing's not going to fall apart. You can push on the thing. It's not going to fall apart, where there's so much fragility and just this fleeting feeling of online growth that if you're not in that wave, if it's all waves, if you're not in the up, it's about who's with you when you're at that low point. It's everyone's going to want you when you're up here. I've even when I've had these viral moments I've had, your inbox gets full of people that I want to edit your videos. I want to represent you. I want to book you here. I want to book you there. But when you're on those lows, who's fucking with you there? That's your team. That's your real people that are going to grow with you, not these fake people up top that come with a flag and a fucking foam finger for you every time you do good.
Right. And even, I mean, TikTok's done that to a lot of people, but even like the Matt Rife examples where it's like he's actually been able to take and make a career out of it. It's like, but he also was doing it for like 11 years before that viral moment.
He was a real comedian going into that viral moment. And I think he had the baseline skills to continue growing and feeding his audience the content that he needed, where a lot of people, like you said, will have that viral moment. Then you just don't have the chops, the content, or the shows to even get the clips that you need to feed the beast. And Matt Rife, a lot of people shit on that guy, man. But for me, I see him, he's wildly successful. He's killing it. He's doing awesome stuff. He treats people well. I've heard nothing but nice things with that. But also I see him in a similar vein of as what Dane did for comedy in that moment. This guy is getting so many people that never would have given a shit about stand-up comedy to come watch the fucking game we play. How could that be a bad thing? These people are fans of Matt Rife right now, and they probably will be forever. But that doesn't mean that that's the only person they're going to be fans of. Everybody who was a fan of Dane Cook is also fans of fucking Louis and Burr and Ree and all these other people. It's this like famine mindset of like that person's success means more success for all of us. You dummy. How do you not see that as more possibilities for every person?
The rising tide raises all ships.
Totally.
He definitely did that for a lot of people, a large segment of people that have never even thought about buying a ticket to a stand-up show, were all of a sudden waiting at midnight for the ticket drop and broke Ticketmaster.
And you could say, maybe they saw that show, they'll never see one again. Yeah, I bet you not all of those people do. Even if 10% of those people go become comedy fans and buy another ticket, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are now new fans of comedy that might see you.
Right. Like people who went were like, oh, I actually really like the opener too. And I didn't expect that I would like this person who wasn't Matt.
Or I don't like this guy. Who else is there? Who else is there that I do like? And sure, there'll be a percentage of people that go, I don't like this. Maybe I don't like stand up, and they'll never watch it again. But they were never going to watch it in the first place.
Like you
anyway.
said, it like fishes in a new pond. And brings people over to like this world where it's like, even if they don't go buy a ticket to the stand-up thing, maybe like a female audience member who started following Matt because they thought he was a hot comedian.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they see that he's on whatever, Whitney Cummings podcast. Totally. And they're like, oh, she's hilarious. Right. She's awesome. How have I not seen her stuff anymore? And now all of a sudden, like, they go buy tickets to her show because Matt introduced, you know what I mean? That's like, I just don't understand why people have to like point the finger and then look for all the bad things and start criticizing anybody who has any success.
Well, and again,
it just doesn't make any sense.
I think the people that are doing this are not happy with where they're at in their career. I think there's very few people killing it that are going, fuck that guy.
Right.
The people that are killing it are going, hey man, do you want to come do my podcast?
Right.
Because that's how you kill, is you get the guy who's funny and killing it with a new audience, and you come get to know him and see how he made that, you know?
Right.
I just think there's so much room for collaboration. There's more of it than ever, which is amazing. But I don't think that it's a human instinct to have that jealousy or that animosity when, especially when things are not going the way that you envision them in your mind, because you thought it was going to be a 50-yard dash and it's a fucking marathon. Right. So I think a lot of it's perspective. And I mean, a lot of this too, it's taken practice for me to feel this way. It's taken practice of looking over my shoulder and being jealous and going, why do I feel this way? I don't need to feel this way. And refining that reaction in my brain to be happy for people. Why wouldn't I be happy for you? Of course. And the more you tell yourself that, the more it's true. You realize that that is actually how this whole thing works. And look at the people who are killing it, man. I mean, they have one thing in common. They're all fucking helping each other out. Yeah. I was going to say that I saw because this is how I felt. And I think a lot of like podcast industry people felt about Bobby Altoff, cause she just overnight blew up out of nowhere. Like, hadn't been podcasting for a long time. Such a great personality for the podcast too. Like, she's brought something new. She crushed it, and she has been now extremely successful and doing very, very well for herself. Right. And I saw her and Matt do a like podcast thing together. I didn't like watch the whole thing, but I was just like, what an interesting time to be alive. Where like these two people a year ago, 0 people on the planet would have known their name except for like their friends and family. Right. You know what I mean? And then a year later, all of a sudden combined, they have like 15 million followers or something. Yeah. And like, why, like, but like you said, my immediate reflex was to be like, like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like that sucks. I've been podcasting for 7 years. Like I've never gotten the traction that she's getting after her 3rd episode. You fall into the trap of having that, jealousy bone in your body. And then you just kind of start picking it apart again and being like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like it does not harm me. It doesn't affect me negatively in the least that this other person that I do not know is having a lot of success. Right. It's nothing but good for the industry. It's good for her. It's good for her friends and for her, for the people that are closest to her. Right. Like there's so many good things that come from this. The only thing that's bad about it is my reaction to it. Yeah. Not even anything that's actually happening. And what that reaction does to you mentally. Right. I've created this situation where I'm going to be less productive, less happy, like more upset about more things. Right. For what? And it's something you have zero control over. Crazy. It's not like you could have put out an episode that would have stopped their success. Or it's not the world. And even if I could, I wouldn't have anyway. Right. Exactly. Like that's it's objectively insane behavior. Yeah. But when that's what to go back to the beginning of this conversation. That's why I believe so strongly in like interrogating your feelings. Like whenever you have like negative feelings, it's just interrogate that feeling. Like, why am I feeling like this? This is probably not how I should be behaving as an adult person. Totally. Well, and especially like when I first quit my day job in comedy, there's a lot of anxiety of like, is this right? Am I doing this right? Is this the right thing? Am I spending my time well? Sure. And when I would have those days where I was so anxious and I was like, God, I just feel like I can't fucking, and you look into that and you're like, oh, it's because you didn't fucking do what you were supposed to do, or you did this instead of that. And if you can figure out why you're feeling unproductive or like a loser or whatever that feeling is, you'll usually find the cause of it. But a lot of times it's hard to go, oh, I did it because I made a mistake, or I was lazy, or I did that, or it's hard to have that conversation with yourself. It's also really difficult to try to feel anything productive when you're in one of those like woe is me moods. Right. When you're physically feeling the emotion of this sucks, or I'm sad, or I'm frustrated, or which are all very valid emotions that all of us feel at some point. When you're in the middle of that, it's really, really difficult to try to pull something 100%. Positive out of it, because then it highlights the fact that you can pull something positive out of it and doesn't allow you to rest in that feeling, which can sometimes feel really safe. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? What helped me with that was checklists. I would just write a to-do list. That'd be the first thing I would do every day. And then I started doing it the night before I would go to bed.
There you go.
And I would go, this is what I'm going to do. And just the physical act of, because sometimes you can work on something all day and have nothing to show for it. But if I could
feeling.
cross things off the list, even if it's something stupid like fucking, take a shower,
right?
Check your emails, edit a video, like those kind of things. And just feeling like I was actually knocking stuff off. I was like, okay, I got through my whole fucking list today. This is great.
Right.
And even if those things were led to nothing, it still felt like I was progressing and doing things correctly. And it helped to kind of ease that, what are you doing with your life voice in my mind.
Yeah, that was just like anxious.
Well, especially
feeling.
like my wife was working a day job. Everyone in the house was working a day job. I'm home alone. I'm like, and I got to do something. And then if you don't spend that time wisely, you feel like, well, why are all these people doing that?
Like, I need to get a job.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like you're not contributing, and then you're holding your life up. You're like, I can't have kids. I don't have insurance, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah. But now I got my first kid on the way in October.
Dude.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all. Do you know the gender yet?
Yeah, it's a girl.
It's a girl.
Yeah.
Dude, congrats.
Thank you, man.
It's going to be a wild, wild time.
Yeah. No, it's going to add a whole new spice to the mix. But, yeah.
No kidding.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh, okay,
so,
nice.
Yeah, we're beyond diapers phase, but we're still like in the middle of the, really hard work phase.
Yeah, for sure.
But my son just did start kindergarten, so that's been
that's great.
It's been very helpful.
Yeah, at least one kid during the day now is
right. And we put her in preschool. So
okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
So from like 7 to 1, she gets out of 1.
Oh, so the kids aren't in the car right now?
Yeah, they have an iPad. They'll
AC's on, whatever.
They have one iPad to split, but it'll be okay. Yeah. So yeah, but dude, doing anything with kids is just like a magnifier.
Yeah, totally.
Like literally anything that you think about, it's like going to dinner.
Right.
It's like such a simple activity that you take for granted pre-kids. And then after kids, it's like, remember when we just like went to dinner?
Yeah, we could just show up at a place.
That's wild.
We could improvise on the way home and be like, let's go here. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for the new challenges and the motivation and the and the perspective and stuff. And like I said, I'm from a big family, so I've been with my wife we've been together 14 years, married for 9. So we've had our time to travel and live life and do the whole thing. I'm 32.
Okay.
And we wanted to have, kids before it became geriatric.
You guys are like almost exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty, it's wild that they use that term geriatric.
It's 35
for like a 35-year-old.
Yeah. But also for me, I'm like, I'd rather just get things going.
Sure.
And for me, it's like, the real conversation was like, hey, I think we can get insurance this year. If we're going to get insurance, shouldn't we use it?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I'm not just about wasting money.
Yeah, it's like if we're going to pay for it, we should just have the kid, right? So it became the whole conversation at once. And it's exciting, man.
Yeah, it's good times, dude. I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, it's really difficult, but it's also the most rewarding thing that you could possibly think of. But I was going to say, you guys are very, very similar to us. So you got married super young then.
Yeah, I'm 23 when I was married.
Okay. Yeah. So I was 21. But it's about the same. So I'm 30. Wow, I almost said 31. I'm 32 as of like a week or two ago.
Okay.
And then we've been together 15 years and married 10 years.
Okay, wow.
And then had 2 kids.
That's awesome.
Back. But yeah.
Yeah, we met senior year of high school and it's just been such an easy, effortless relationship. It's been awesome. She's the best.
What does she do?
She actually does YouTube for a living now. So she does like Animal Crossing, like cozy game type Stardew Valley type game stuff on YouTube. Yeah. Nice. She like popped off over the pandemic. She was doing it before, and then right game came out at the right moment, and she just had a huge growth, and that's been her thing ever since.
So you guys kind of both have these like unconventional career paths.
Yeah, which is why insurance was the biggest question.
Sure, yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
it's so damn expensive if like you don't have a job covering it for you.
It's insane.
It's like a second mortgage.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And then you still have to pay like copays and
and you're still paying for everything.
Every time I show up, I'm like, they're like, oh, it's just a copay of whatever, $100 or whatever. I'm like, don't I pay you guys like $1,400 a month? Like, why don't you just draw it off of that?
How about you copay me every time I pay you? And
it's so wild.
Yeah. But yeah, man, no, it's exciting times for sure. Yeah. October 27th, she's due.
October 27th. Dude, I mean, shit, that's soon.
It's coming quick. Yeah. This is like one of my last road dates before the whole thing. I'm shutting it down until.
I was going to say, you're taking some time.
Yeah. Well, I'll just do spots around New York and New England and stuff. And then my plan is to plan a big tour for next year from like March on and just do a bunch of dates and new venues and stuff like that.
That'll be awesome, man. I'm stoked for you guys. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it'll be a really
I'll keep
cool
you
time.
in the loop.
Yeah. Just text me when you're up at 3:45 a.m.
Exactly.
When does the screaming stop? Does that happen at some point?
Yeah.
So is there anything that you like, ideally, if, whatever, we fast forward the clock 5 years, 10 years, and you've checked all the boxes in terms of what stand-up comedy as an art form itself has to offer you.
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond that you're hoping to get into at some
point?
I
mean, I'd love to do movies and animation and voiceover work and stuff like that. I'd love to create my own animated shows and things like that. That's definitely stuff I'm working on the back end right now. Cool. It's something that, like,
from a writing perspective or like directing?
I would want to be involved at every level. I would want to write. I would want to create a show that I'm in the voice of. I'm in the writer's room, and sure, I'm not necessarily doing the fucking copywriting, but we're in there coming up with the ideas and being a part of the whole thing from start to finish. That's definitely something that I want to accomplish in this. SNL was a goal of mine for a while, but it's just not something. I think their audience and what I want to accomplish in comedy has become completely disconnected.
Yeah. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah, and I'm just more interested in being myself than trying to fit a bubble. So anything that allows that is the world I'm in. That's the only time you catch me in a writer's room, is if it's my show and I'm creating this thing with a group of people that I really like and that are working towards a common thing. But right now it's all stand up. It's create content. It's write new jokes. It's feed the beast, grow, let everybody know who I am.
Yeah.
Sell tickets, have people come and see me for me, not just for the comedy club, because that's when things really start changing. And then just do every podcast, meet everybody, and have a good ass time. Go with the flow. I try not to think too far ahead with stuff like that. I like to have my plans and goals and things, but at the end of the day, I got into comedy because it's different every day. So if I can tackle the puzzle in front of me, whether it's the audience and who I am on stage or what I need to accomplish to meet this person or that person, then that's what I'm actively working towards, with that long-term goal always being success, fun, stand-up comedy, win. Yeah,
as long as you have like the heading.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Then like you don't have to worry as much.
Yeah, I don't need an exact point to go to, but I know things I want to get done, especially when it comes to TV shows and things like that. But I also know when the right opportunity is to really take action on those things. And I think I'll know that when the time comes.
Yeah, and the clarity comes along the way too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like I think a lot of people get that piece wrong, is they think clarity comes first and then action comes second, and it's actually the opposite of that.
Yeah, no, you got to jump in the water to figure out where you're swimming for sure. Yeah, and it's all murky water out here. Nobody knows if they're doing anything right or wrong, and I just try and pick a direction, keep swimming, and see where I end up. Hopefully hit land.
The beauty of doing something that you actually enjoy working through, though, is that by itself is a W. Totally. Like, how many people on the planet have to wake up every single damn day and do something they hate?
No, I know. I'm forever grateful that it even exists. It blows my mind that people even show up to listen to people say dumb things out of their face. I'll literally be in the back of a comic club and be like, "Why are you here? How is this real?" Like,
especially when you see the stage too, because even if you go to like see a concert or something, it's like there's production. The speakers are crazy. The lights are going crazy. There's a band. There's multiple instruments. There's a bunch of it's a full stage production. Totally. And you go into a stand-up comedy club and it's like a microphone on a stand.
Yeah. And then a stool and a person. And a water bottle. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I'm forever grateful that I took the chance that it's working out and that I can do something that I love in the way that I'm doing it now. And I just want to keep growing it. And that's the thing. It's like we said about the stability or that, it's like the cost of entry for a career like this is the anxiety, is the not knowing if it's going to work out. Sure. Am I doing the right stuff? So, as long as I can continue to pay that toll and work towards something bigger than myself, that's where I find happiness, I think.
I mean, we're all going to die one day, dude. So may as well take your time to focus on figuring something out that you actually enjoy.
100%. Yeah.
Drew, thanks for coming on the show, man. Before we take off, where can people go find more about you?
Follow me online at Drew Dunn Comedy on all social medias. You can also go to my website, drewduncomedy.com. I got a couple specials and short sets and stuff up there that people can check out. So.
Sweet. Drew Dunn Comedy online, on social. Go check out some of Drew's stuff. Tell me you heard about him here on the show. As always, remember to leave every relationship better than you found it. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.